So welcome to Boxing Media Hub, sponsored by Falcon Contracting and in partnership with Jam's Boxing Chat. And I've got a very special guest. I would say, and I know he's a very modest man, but he was one of the ones in the middleweight division in that late 80s, early 90s phase that you went through, and into the 2000s. Let's give you credit, Neville.
Just
Neville Brown. How you doing, Neville?
I'm good, Joe. I'm good. Ducking and diving
Honestly,
still, but we're
yeah.
as you do.
It's a pleasure to have you on, mate. Honestly, a real pleasure. And you know, it goes back to the saint. Are you still a saint now? I think is probably the best way to describe it.
You know something? I never realized how important the name was. And I got these names. I got the Craftsman, I got the Saint. And I think it just came in because I think I came into the ring one day and I just used the Saint track and everybody loved it. It kind of stuck to a point. But there was the Predator and there was the obvious one, my name, Brown Bomber. So the Brown Bomber
obviously was the one, wasn't it?
Yeah. So as an amateur coming through, I was knocking everybody out. I think I'd won 5 national titles and I'd had 26 fights and I'd knocked out 24. So clearly that title stuck. I didn't like it.
You didn't like it?
No, as a kid. I mean, I was a shy kid, really. I was dragged into the forefront with boxing. So obviously I was confident in my ability in sport-wise, but generally I kept myself to myself. I was low-key. Being mixed race, growing up in the 70s, there were hard times. My parents were struggling, my dad being Jamaican and my mum being British. And because my mum accepted my dad, her family didn't. So you can imagine how rough it was. That relationship lasted 10 years and it was always up and down and loud. And nobody ever sat me down and went, Neville, you're mixed. You know, I'm Jamaican, and so you're mixed heritage. So I used to get called the half caste, and there'd be arguments around the house or loud discussion, should I say? He's black, he's half caste, and so that was the upbringing we had. And obviously the schooling was a battle. So I was ending up in scuffles and fights. Not that I thought I was a troublemaker or anything, but I was getting labelled that because I was ending to fight for my name or fight just because of what I look like. So hard times.
Yeah, and as you say, during that decade, it was a very tough time to grow up, being a mixed race man, should we say, and not knowing your identity in yourself. You know, not being told.
So it was, because you know, as you say, no one told me. No one sat me down. My parents didn't sit me down because both my parents couldn't read or write, so I never got that sit down and learn how to read books and Jack and Jill books and anything. You know what I mean? So it was a very difficult time growing up as kids. School then became, you end up playing catch up at school. Even though I felt I was sharp, but I just didn't understand things because I was playing catch up, just reading the basic ABC books to catch up. A woman called Miss Tyson, I'd love to find her. A young woman. So if I'd have been 7 or 8, she'd have been, I think, early 20s. Of all names, Miss Tyson. And she took me aside and
said,
Mr. Brown. Yeah, she goes, Mr. Brown, you're not as daft as you make out to be. And I was like, so it was a bit of a class clown type thing. I used to play about and hide. I'd listen to people. I was cute. I'd listen to people and I'd act like I understood what they were saying and going along with it just to be accepted. You kind of build a skill of trying to be accepted. So I got good at that eventually, but eventually she saw through it and went, come here, you. And she took me aside for like 3 months, 6 months, and she got me reading books and caught me up with the rest of the class. You don't realize how important that was at the time. You know what I mean? Well, look to find her and find out where she is and give her a
big shout out to Miss Tyson. She obviously, as I say, it's incredible that, you know, you have those people around you at the right time. You know, they are a godsend, aren't they? They come in and it's almost like they know and they pick you up and they get you to where you need to be at that time. And massive
teachers. They should be on better pay rise. They should be paid the best because you're spending time there educating you on life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they're struggling today, aren't they? Teachers.
Yeah, and they've got multiple hats, haven't they? You know, their parent hat. Exactly. They're not just a teacher anymore. They're built as this machine that has to take on everything that comes through the door. And I'm spot on with you, mate. I think they deserve more pay and a lot more credit, especially following COVID as well. I think we realised what a teacher does, and all the parents pulling their hair out at home, doing home learning, realised in that moment.
yeah. Crazy times, even now, crazy times today. I won't have to be a teacher today. No, well, I'm a teacher. We're all teachers in our own right, aren't we? Coaching and stuff and mentoring. So I think we're all part of the teaching structure. So
obviously getting into fights when you were younger, but when did you really sort of lace up that pair of gloves for the first time and get stuck in?
I always say I fell into it. I think my first fight, I was 14, and I joined the gym as a 12-year-old, and by chance, really. I mean, I was doing judo. I always remember. I keep thinking I was like from the days where I used to travel from the age of 8 or 9 to the Parelli Club, which would be like 3 miles away from my house, and I'd finish at 10 o'clock, 10:30. I'd be walking home at age 7 and 8. It's like shocking when you think of it. That's how it was in them days. I joined in, signed up, and I was doing judo, and I was doing really well with that. I was also doing athletics with the school, so I knew I was good at sport. I knew I could beat everybody at sport. That was my thing. That was my little goal. Going to school academically, I struggled there, but sport-wise, that was me. I was top dog in that arena. And so one night, I was looking for my boys, my friends, and I couldn't find them. It was a Tuesday night, I couldn't find them. So I was looking everywhere, all the local spots we go to, play football, whatever, you name it. They weren't there. I couldn't figure out where they were. Nobody knew. So the next day, Wednesday, they all said to me, I goes to them, where was you last night? He goes, we went down to this gym. It's a boxing gym. I hadn't even got a clue what boxing was. It was on Gill Street in Burton, across from the cinema. And I was like, okay. It's amazing. It's brilliant. So I was like, okay. So next thing you know, it was Tuesday and Thursday. So on the Thursday, I went down with them and I jumped in. Now, because I was having problems with certain kids, older kids generally, the local bullies at school were in the gym and they could fight as well. So when I looked at them, I thought, oh my God, they're good. The way they were pounding the bags, the fitness and everything. So I thought, I'm not sure if I'm comfortable here. And it was kind of like they were Dean Gower. Sorry, mate, got to mention the name. Dean Gower. These guys were the boys, and they was always giving me a hard time at school. And then when I went to the gym, all these local bullies were like in there. So if he's on a punch bag, and it was like a rough looking gym, like a stable, really rough, probably 6-7 bags up, if that. And then loads of kids, 30, 40 kids. Back in the day, it was just full up of kids. So these mentors, these coaches were just looking after us. And that's where I met Mickey, my coach, who trained me. It became like a father figure to me, Mickey Lynch. And it was an amazing coach. And he'd already boxed at a high level, so he understood how the game was. And I basically, after about 2 weeks, I kind of stopped because they were kind of, if I was on a punch bag, they'd shove me off the bag. These bullies. And then if I was doing press-ups, they just like and spit on the floor next to me. I thought, you know what? It's bad enough in school with this.
I don't need it outside as well.
I don't need it in this gym. So I left the gym, and my dad didn't want me to box. My mum did, but my dad didn't want me to box. Even though my dad had separated from my mum, they were still good friends. And my dad would still come in and check on me, make sure I was behaving myself and whatever. And then I remember not going to the gym for a while, and my friends kept saying, "Oh, Mickey keeps asking for you." I go, "Who?" He goes, "Mickey, you, the coach." I go, "Oh, okay. What for?" "I don't know. He just keeps asking, are you coming back?" And I ignored it, sort of. But they kept saying next time I saw him, he goes, "Mickey keeps asking for you. He keeps asking, are you going to come back to the gym?" So I kind of was curious. So I went back, and the coach, brilliant coach, Liverpudlian, strong Liverpool accent as well. And he'd say to me, he'd go to me, "Oh, do you want to continue boxing? Do you want to box?" And I went like, because I used to be quiet. I used to get called Noddy as a kid. I used to speak. I used to go, what? So he goes, do you want a box? He goes, I want you to sit on that chair over there for me, like an old sofa looking thing. So I sat on the sofa. He goes, I'll come and talk to you in a minute. Let me get the class going and I'll come and talk with you. So he made me sit there for the whole class. And when I got up to go and train, he went, no, I'd like to sit there. When I get 5 minutes, I'm going to come and have a talk with you. The whole session went on. And I thought, what's going on? The kids, my mates were going, why are you training? I go, I don't know. He told me to sit here. So I sat here. And at the end of the session, he goes, right, sorry about today. Are you coming next session? And I went, yeah. He goes, good. I'll talk to you then. So I walked away thinking,
I've been sat here
all night. So the next session, say it was Tuesday or Thursday, the next session I came in and he went, sat and he goes, sit on the sofa for me again, would you? So I sat on the sofa again. My mate goes, why don't you come on the run? I went. So I started getting ready. He goes, no, sit there and I'll have a chat with you. So another whole session went by. At the end of the session, he goes, I'm sorry for messing you around, Neville. It is Neville, isn't it? I goes, yeah. I goes, right. Are you going to come next session? I goes, yeah. I goes, but I'm not going to sit on the goddamn sofa. I'm coming to train. And he went, good. I hope you are. I went, what's he doing? I goes, I need to know if you like it, if you want to be a boxer, because I see something in you. I ain't got a clue at this age what he's talking about. He goes, yeah. I've seen something in you, and I don't want to put 3 or 4 months into you and you just disappear because you're not interested. And you know what? It worked because I never missed a session ever for the next 10 years.
It's clever though, isn't it? It's almost like that psychological edge to say, well, if he can just sit there, then he there's a need, isn't there? There's a need. And like Jam has just said, he was clearly a wise man.
Very. Oh my God, very. I've never known a man. He was so wise that when I see a lot of athletes today, when I left on Mick because of the politics after 2 years after winning 5 national titles with Mickey, the politics within the gym got rid of him because he had such a way with the kids. But the guys who run the gym weren't interested in that. They were just taking us up and down the country, fighting us here and there. And at the time, I didn't know, but they were gambling on us. That was the big thing. And if I put it in any other way, it was like this. Dog fights. They'd take 10 of us to Liverpool. We'd fight, win or lose, and they'd be gambling on us. And they'd get paid for it was shocking. So as bad as it was, hopefully you'd think it's got better. But they've clamped down on stuff. And unfortunately, a lot of the are still in the list. They're still up the ladder. So anybody else coming into the game now, they get restricted, they get rules on them, they get everything put on them. So, but we ain't the issue. The issue is with the guys already ahead of us, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it came like these guys were just taking them down the country. So when Mickey came, and Mickey would say, well, he shouldn't be in the room with him. For example, my first fight, I asked Mickey why he wasn't there. And he said, because you shouldn't be boxing the guy you're boxing. And I was like, oh, yeah, but I won. I know you won, but you shouldn't have boxing. So my first fight was with the Staffordshire champion. We'd had 18 fights, lost 2, and couldn't get fights.
What? And that was your debut?
That was my debut. And the coach at the time was saying to me, when I asked questions, I goes, why did you put? He didn't tell me until I won the fight. And I didn't until I read it in the paper the next day. I still got the article today. So I read it in the paper the next day, and it had me Neville beats the Staffordshire champion. I kept thinking, am I the Staffordshire champion now? Because I beat the Staffordshire champion. And I shouldn't have been in the ring with him because now I couldn't box anybody on 2 fights or 3 fights like myself. For experience. I was now 3 more fights. I got shoved into the championships.
Yeah, you're now the guy because you beat the guy.
For the Staffordshire, yeah. And then next thing I won the schoolboys. And I stopped everybody but one, a guy called Graham Hall, in the semi-finals, and now I was national champion. It was like bizarre. And then I went on to win 5 national titles after that, back to back, with Mickey in my corner. And the reason why I say Mickey was so, like someone said earlier, he's like a legend. He was so wise. He never allowed these 30 children to overtrain. They were whippersnappers. He'd say, Neville, finish that that exercise doing that. Finish it off, that rep. I go, yeah, I got 2 more to do. He goes, no, finish that set off. That'll do. Because he could see that I might have staggered or I might have shown I was a little bit fatigued. but I was still going to finish it off. But he went, no, I know how hard you work. And he'd monitor us. He used to say this thing in the gym. He goes, I knew you were going somewhere. I knew you, a guy called Ronnie, a guy called Tivy, you guys were going to go places. And we said, like, as young kids, how did you know? He goes, because I'd have the stopwatch and I'd be walking around the gym and I'd walk up to the punch bag and you'd be on the punch bag and you'd be going, bang, 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 bang. And I'd turn away and the bag would still be going, bang, 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 bang. And he'd walk across the other side of the gym to one of the other kids, I won't mention his name. And while Mickey was there, he'd hear the guy. As soon as he came up to the side of the bag and he knew Mickey was there, the bag would be like, bang, 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 bang. As soon as he turned around, the bag would go,
Yeah.
and he turned back to face the bag, and the guy would go, bang, 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 bang. So just for the laugh, he just stayed there.
just to get him to work.
The guy was dead and he said, I didn't need to do that with you. I didn't need to watch you. I did what a trainer needs to do, which is motivate you. And if you're overtraining, I need to pull you back.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks coaches need to push you. Yes, we talk to you, but we don't push you. We listen to your body. We watch your body. We watch your actions. We watch the way you're performing. And if you're struggling today, I will know because I know the sport, as Mickey would say, and he'd ease us back. He'd pull it back. That's missing today in a lot of gyms, I feel.
Yeah. No, definitely. I think there's always that urge to push, but there's no, they don't kind of look at it from the other angle, which That's is right. You also need to rest. You need to recuperate and go again, and you need to get things right, don't you? You've got to have the balance. You've got to have a guy that's literally looking after you.
Yeah, you can't just attack all the time. You've got to learn. Because like a lot of gyms, when I first joined the gym with the other guys, other coaches I learned along the way, they used to have you'd be attacking the punch bags, you'd be attacking the press ups, you'd be attacking the runs. Everything's attack. And the coach would go, well done, brilliant, that's what I'm talking about. And then you'd spar, what would you do? You'd attack. That's all you knew. Yeah, and then you realize then maybe this isn't my sport because it hurts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because no one's taught you any boxing yet.
When the game plan changes, because if you're in a fight and that game plan changes and your attacking's not working and there's nothing else it's
a horrible feeling
now, don't we? We see it with boxers now that they have that one-dimensional approach.
Yep.
And they get caught and they go, what now?
It's so true. It's so true. You can see it, can't you? There's no. You could. I learned to box because I had that experience. And I got to my 7th or 9th fight, and I boxed a guy called Paul Harding. To this day, I say it's my hardest fight because I was fit and strong and would go forward, but I didn't know how to box or go on my back foot. And this guy was like 57, 50 knockouts, Liverpudlian champion, and he was a proper animal. It was awesome. No one told me. A coach said, I didn't want to tell you because I knew I didn't want to scare you because I knew, but I watched you. And he said, in that fight, you proved yourself. You never have to prove yourself again. Because in that fight, because I didn't know where to go, it cut me off and hit me with some booming shots. And eventually it was the first time I went down. And I went down on my hunches and I was like angry. And I hit the canvas with my hand. And I stood there on my feet, like in an Aboriginal sitting position, like sitting there going. So clearly I was okay, but in my head I didn't want to be there no more. This hurt.
Yeah.
I got up and I didn't know what to do. And I'd always heard the count in my favor. 1, 2, and I'd go to neutral corner and it's really loud, but it was me being counted for the first time. And then I just did what I normally do. I attacked him.
Yeah.
And I pushed him back and then I gave him a standing count in the second round. In the third round, I stopped him. I swear, Joel, I swear. After that fight, less than 6 minutes, my eyes were closed over. I was so bruised up, you couldn't recognize me. And I remember a blonde woman was next to me. I could see her hair. She was an older woman. She went, I've never seen strong Liverpool accent. I won't try and do the accent.
That was the bit I was looking forward to.
And she goes, I've never seen a fight like that. That was an amazing fight. And I remember saying to her, and you'll never see me in one of them again.
Yeah.
And the first thing I did then was go and look at somebody boxing. And it was, obviously, I went back to Sugar Ray Leonard. And I went, right, he boxed Duran at a war. Amazing fight. The best fight I've ever seen to this day. And then the second fight, he boxed. I thought, that's the way. I want to be a box fighter. And that's when I started working, and I started being a box fighter from that onwards, because my head was sore for days.
Well, and let's be honest, what a pro career, Neville. I know you're a modest guy yourself. You're a very humble guy, but 40 fights, 32 wins, 26 knockouts is incredible. And as I say, during and I know you'll always look at things and you'll go, could have, would have, should have, because that's the boxing mentality. You all look at something and think, you know, could have done better there, but you've paved the way for the next generation of what you have, you know, what you've achieved. It's incredible. It genuinely is. And some of the opponents you've been in with as well just shows how much of a tough man you are.
But I didn't realize, see, whether I'm tough or not, I mean, people often say to me, I can't believe you're a boxer. You don't come across as a fighter. I go, how does a fighter come across then? I don't know. It's rough. And I go, yeah, but it's what you're made of when you get in there. Because trust me, my coach even said this to me. Mickey said, I've never seen a relaxed dude like you. You even shook hands with the guy you're fighting and wished him luck. And you meant it. I don't think you knew you're fighting him. But, you know, because I know I kept thinking, I'm going through this. If he's a fighter, he's going through the same things I'm going through. And trust me, inside, I wanted to run. But for some reason, I just wouldn't back down. I remember when I was young and I was fighting 5 or 6 kids at one time. And people came up to me and said, why was you fighting 5 guys? And I was going, I didn't want to. I didn't throw the first punch. I was just there. And I think maybe I thought of Spider-Man, because I used to look at Spider-Man magazines all the time. And I used to, when I say read, I say look, because I just look at the pictures. It's when Miss Tyson taught me to read. I went back and read all these Marvel magazines, and I thought, wow, even though I can read it now, I don't know anything different. The pictures are amazing. So obviously, pictures 1,000 words, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I kind of did that, and I was like, yeah. So I don't know. Maybe I thought of Spider-Man, and I was just whooping and kicking and punching these guys, but I didn't know how to back down. I just. My dad always said, "Don't ever back away from nobody." And I think I kind of literally did that, but it getting me into trouble.
Never did. Debut November '89, which was against Spencer Alton. Which you won in a TKO round 4. And this is the amazing thing. 11 win streak. Ford, McDonough, Pronzola, Campbell, Moore, Richards, Casey, Thornton, Booth, Ray. There's some tough men in there at the start of your career. Obviously, you then had your first defeat against Paul Wesley. And it was a tough fight, wasn't it? A very tough.
You know what? Paul Wesley is probably the toughest pro, and this makes no sense to me. When he boxed me, he had 2 knockouts. I was the third. I looked at all the people he'd fought, I'd already beaten them. And what I was getting into was a bad habit in boxing. From my first fight, which I didn't mention, weight drain. I never understood how to make weight, and the guys around me, Mickey knew how to make weight because he never let me overtrain. By overtraining, you'd be struggling to make the weight, but he got me to be fit. But the guys who took over from when they pushed Mickey out, I then was being trained. And for example, my first fight, the one I mentioned, they weighed me in for the first time. I'd never ever been weighed in before, and it was those kilos. I didn't know what they were, the balancing ones. I'd never stood on these scales before. So on the Friday, they said to me, my first fight, they went, right, you're boxing on after the 2-hour training session. They said, and on a Friday night, you're boxing on Monday. They weighed me in, and I was 9'7", it would seem. And they said, right, I don't want to eat too much over the weekend, right? Drink very little, but on actual Monday, don't have no breakfast and come in and we'll weigh you in at 6:30.
Oh.
So I thought, okay, bit nervous and anxious now. So I did as I said, and my mum went, why are you not eating? I goes, so I'm fighting on Monday in Stoke. And they went, yeah, but you need your strength. Why are you not eating? I goes, Mum, you don't understand. They've told me not to eat because I want to eat, and I'm snapping at her because I'm hungry. So I don't eat too much over the weekend. And I weighs in, and these men, I was only 14, these men were angry. Now, what they said, the man said to me, I got into these scales. I did not even know what the scales said. Couldn't read them. I'd never seen them before. And he went, and at first he went, you fat bastard. And no one's ever called me that before in my life. And I thought to myself, I've got a 6-pack. And I'm going, did it say fat bastard or black bastard?
Yeah. Both are horrid, but
I know.
When you're looking at yourself, you must think, well, it can't be that.
Yeah. I was looking at these two guys and thinking, what? So they ended up, so you got any kit to training? And goes, no, you told me I was fighting. So I ended up putting on some dirty clothes at the gym, and I had to put my parker on. Remember them parkers you had where you come over your face? I had to put the parker on, and I was skipping. I had to skip, and I was 10 stone 2, and the fight was at 9 stone 7. And it weighed me. This is what people who don't know boxing, don't understand the game. When I finish at the end of the week, I'm at my lightest, and after a 2-hour training session. So I'm clearly going to be light. So they weighed me and told me don't eat too much. So I'm going to scales, and I'm now weighed in. I'm now skipping for 45 minutes. They weigh me in again, and I come in at 9 stone 8. So I've gone from 10.2 to 9 stone 8. And I thought this was normal. Because I always seen some of the kids skipping weight off. So I thought this is normal. And then they said to me, yep, they'll take the fight. And they rushed me up to Stoke. And I thought, when you get there, you can weigh in, they'll give you some food. I got weighed in, and that was the first fight on. In the boxing, this guy. And I thought, and I look back now, I think, this is horrific.
Yeah.
This is horrific. And this has been going on in the game. So when I got to the stage of boxing as a pro, and I've got these things I say about the amateurs, you get used to killing yourself to make weight. And they always say amateurs don't always do so well when they turn pro. It's because we've got these bad habits of boiling down to box maybe 3 rounds, you'll get away with that. But 8, 9, and 10.
Yeah.
Brain damage. We're dehydrated. We can't recoup in that manner of time. And in the round 7, 8, 9, we get damaged. And that's why I think amateurs struggle when they turn pro a lot of the time. But they're getting that right now, you would think.
Yeah.
But at the time that was happening. So when I was going to fights, those 10 fights you mentioned, I think Tony Booth was a light heavyweight, cruiserweight. And and I was a light middleweight. And I used to walk around the 11 stone, 10, 12 stone. And then I couldn't get the weight down to get down to 11-1. And Mickey Duff was making me go down to these weights, and I was drained with these early fights. So I was totally fatigued. So when I got older, and this is the money I was on, £800 per fight for my first 10 fights, 11 fights. 800, you know. So when I got Wesley, I got offered 1,500, and I took it. And I wasn't ready for it. I wasn't well. And I
bet you thought you'd hit the jackpot though.
I thought so.
£1,500.
And I made the mistake of looking at his record, and I never fully understood the journeyman mentality.
Yeah.
I just thought they were bums, which I take back big time. I learned the hard way. I just thought they were bums. But they're guys who know how to fight, just look after themselves. But he was more. Even Steve Collins said the same thing. He said, I boxed 2 guys that are the strongest people I've ever met. Neville Brown, a guy called Paul Wesley. I goes, yeah, I boxed him. Stopped me in the first round. I was more stunned because I never thought he could have punching power. He had 2 fights in 27 fights, been stopped by everybody who I hit harder than these guys. So how did he manage to stop me? And then that was my gone. That was my one calling card. If I keep myself undefeated, but like you say, I was getting these tough fights where nobody was even telling me who they were. And I was being drained down to 11 stone, 11, 2. And these guys are walking in at 13 stone. And they were good lads.
I think that's. I think I go back to what I was saying, though. That's your mentality. You know, you just went in and you fought these guys from November 89 to July 91 to have those sort of fights in that space of time.
But Joe, do you think it was right?
No, I don't. By the way it's been done, it's shocking.
I feel stupid. Like I should have said no. But if I'd said no, I was already being pushed out of the market. I wanted to box Richie Woodall. I wanted to get in with the big guns, big names, because we had great fighters as amateurs. So I wanted to go and follow those. But I didn't realize as a pro, my first fight was the first time I realized I'm not going to be doing very well as a pro. Because I couldn't get, if you imagine this, I couldn't get people from the Midlands to pay £30, £25 for a ticket to jump on a coach or drive, take half a day off work, because they'd have to get to London to beat the traffic to see me first on or second on at 7:30, unless the main event wasn't too hot. I couldn't get them to come. So when I got to the fight, 20, maybe 30 people from my lot came, and Mickey Duff and all these people straight away went, he's not a ticket seller. My opponents were getting more. They were getting £3,000, £4,000 to fight me. And the Mickey Duff was just saying, he's making no money. So, and he's my promoter, so he should be promoting me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I had these tough fights. So I couldn't get them. So I realized then I'm in trouble here.
And like Jam said, it's all good in hindsight, but at the time, you just need the dough. It was a case of.
I could have said no. Even the Steve Collins fight, I took it. Man,
but as a young man, Neville, you probably thought, I've got to take what I've got here, because I've got to, for me to progress and keep moving forward, you take what is in front of you, don't you?
You know what, Joe, mentally, as a fighter, I'd read the Boxing Ring magazines, I'd read Marvin Hagler, I'd read the Sugar Ray, the Four Kings, and all the other great fighters in that time, 80s, 90s. I'd read them, Duran, all of them, and they'd all be saying, you never backed away from a fight, you never back down. So I thought, I can't back down. Even though every part of my body and my anatomy was saying, no, we shouldn't. I don't think we're good. We're not good. You know, I'm run down, I'm tired. Man, one time, a couple of times, one main time, it was in the ABA Championships. I was on the pads and I could see 3 pads.
Oh dear.
And the coach and the coaches behind us were laughing and going, hit the middle one.
That's such a classic line, though, isn't it? From it's.
And that's
I think I remember watching Rocky. I think it was Neville. Yeah. And there's one where he goes to the corner, doesn't he? And he speaks to, well, funnily enough, Mick. And And Mick turns and he goes, what's going on? And he goes, oh, there's 3 of them out there. And he goes, hit the middle one. And you just think it was there. And that was the 70s. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you know what? It hasn't moved on too much.
It hasn't changed, has it?
And I hate saying that, but
what I will say is you got back in the mad thing is you fought Paul Wesley in the July. You were then back in the ring in the August to win against Paul Smith. And then had the balls, and this is what I love about you, Neville. You had the balls to get back in with Wesley in October, and you won on points.
I couldn't understand it. Here's how that went on there. Here's how it happened, as it went. You're boxing Paul Wesley. Who's Paul Wesley? I was with a guy called Harry Griver from London. And I was so angry after the fight. You get Mardy. And I thought, I've been stopped for the first time. And it was the first professional fight or first fight that my dad had ever come to see. So I even got stopped in front of my parent. And I was just I couldn't raise my head. I thought, how on earth? I felt so angry that I remember the day of the weigh-in. I leaned down to pick up some washing, and I had that really bad headache from the dehydration and the drain. I leaned forward, and my head felt like it was going to fall open. My brain was going to fall. I felt that kind of intense headache, and I thought, you know what? I don't want to get hit in my head. So I assumed the reason why he stopped me so easy was because I was not strong. I'd weight drained. I was thinking of the 1500. I thought, wow, 1500, man. That's how they get you. And then I boxed this guy, and I thought, he looks so good. I was watching him on the pads. I thought, this guy don't look like a bum. He looks brilliant. Him and Nobby Knobs. What an amazing trainer. And I was like, this guy looks like a top yank. What's going on here? This isn't the guy I'm seeing on the videos they've sent me where he's been sparked in round one and he's just fell over. So anyway, I went in there. He did his job. I shook his hand afterwards, and the referee said to me, Neville, I'm going to have to stop the fight. I goes to him, I know. I couldn't understand what was a shock. So obviously I wanted an immediate rematch. And Mickey said, we're going to box one fight first, then we'll have a fight in Burton with Paul. And I was so angry in training, I was just smashing the bags up. And I thought, you know what? I was hitting the bags, fit as a fiddle, really smashing the bags up. And I thought, next time I'm going to smash him up in round one. I'm just going to do him in. And the fight was at Burton. And the week of the fight, I got a phone call saying, Paul's pulled out of the fight. And I was like, no. I goes, why? He goes, he's got a cold. And I goes, he's trying to tell me this journeyman's got more sense than me. And he says he's got a cold. And he pulled out. And I thought, what? What's wrong with me? No control at all. No control of my career at all. Anyway, that same night, this sounds bad, they put the fight 2 weeks back. So I went to Birmingham that night to a dance. So I went to Birmingham to a dance in the Hummingbird in Birmingham. And all the Birmingham boxers were there. And they ran up to me and goes, Neville, you're boxing Paul. I goes, I know, I'm going to kill him. He goes, no, he's not the same fighter. I go, what do you mean? He goes, have you not heard? I goes, no, why? He goes, he's just come back from Italy. He's just boxed the world #1 as a warm-up fight for the Italian. Is it Quinel or something? I'm not sure if it's Quinel or Quinine. Italian. You look it up, I don't know. And he says he beat the guy over 8 rounds or 10 rounds, but they wouldn't give him the decision because he's just a bum. I go, hang on, rewind. He's just done what? He's gone to Italy after he's fought me, took the world #1, who's having a warm-up fight before he boxes for the championship. I think it was against Tony. Lights Out Tony.
All right, yeah.
So I'm like, okay, what's going on here? There's something not right here. And he's beat this guy. He beat him in his own country. The boxing news says it. He beat the guy, but they wouldn't give him the decision. That 2 weeks, I changed my mental. I thought, you know what? Something's not quite right here. I'm going to have to box this dude. So I came out and I controlled myself to box him. And I realized I have never been hit so hard as a boxer. That guy had some power and he was fit, strong. He was hard to open up. He was brilliantly trained. And as soon as I beat him, I thought, right, Nobby Knobs, you've trained him. Because, yeah, we trained him. So I went and joined their gym because I'd gone pro with Mickey Duff, and I signed a contract, and he said to me that when I sign the contracts, I'll be going over to America to be training with Lloyd Honeyghan, and I'll be helping him with his sparring, getting prepared in the States. I was like, yeah, where do I sign?
Yeah.
2 years later, I never left Burton-on-Trent. I was training on my own. I had no coach for those first 13 fights, 12 fights. So I did Harry Griver after that. So I didn't even have a coach. And I had to train at separate times to the amateur gym because you couldn't train, pros and amateurs couldn't train, especially in small towns like Burton. So I was training myself for that. No proper pads, no nothing, thinking, this is crazy. I should be in Florida now. Ringing up Mickey, and me and Mickey going back and forth arguments. And the man's a dark man. I'll tell you now. He's a dark man. You know what I mean?
It just sounds like you just, as much as you tried to just get on with things, it was just pillar to post. It's just pillar to post the whole time.
It was horrible. My dad was angry. You know, he said, "Why are you boxing? This guy's not looking after you." And I'm like going, "Yeah." Couldn't get him on the phone, nothing. And I heard him talking about Michael Watson. I met Michael Watson, and Michael Watson said, "Have you signed up?" And I went, "Yeah." He went, "Yeah." I go, "That's not good." Why is Michael Watson shaking his head? He goes, "I boxed Mike McCallum, and I still haven't been paid a year later." I was like,
Mate.
"Oh shit! I mean, what's going to happen here? I'm in problems." And I had small town Burton boy. I had no chance against these big top dogs of London. And I'd been had. What I feel had happened, he'd signed me up because he didn't want me having Hearns or somebody, because Barry Hearns was coming into the game. Frank Warren was struggling at the time, but Hearns wanted me, and I thought, should I sign up with Hearns? And I should have done, really. But Hearns didn't have any real depth in the game. So he was putting the young prospects in with top fighters from America, because the record said 30 fights, 10 wins. They thought they were bums. These guys were lethal. They knew what they were doing. They were sparring Roy Jones and all the rest of the boys. So when they came over here, they were destroying guys left, right, and center. I thought, you know what? I need to go to Mickey. Mickey knows the game inside out. But unfortunately, I wasn't one of his favorites because I wasn't bringing bums. I wasn't putting bums on seats, even though I was trying to be exciting. Hence the knockouts. But it just wasn't enough. He said to me one day, Mickey, he says, "Neville, I have to pay more money for your opponents to get you in the ring." And I remember saying to him, "Yeah, but you're the promoter. You should have no problem with that. You're the top promoter," which means he's going to throw some dangerous guy that no one's heard of in the ring with you, which is what was happening. I think I got a French guy for one of my fights. The guy was deadly. That was upbringing.
It's just mad. And yet to think that, from my point of view, from a boxing fan's point of view, from other people that I've spoken to, you've had such a cracking career. Because even after beating Wesley in that October, you then went and had a 12 win streak, which you captured the British title, you know, the middleweight title. We had this conversation before we went live, which was the belt.
Yes.
And still for me, and for Jam on the channel, still the belt. And you defended it against a good friend of mine who was a bit of a troubled man at the time, Andy Flute.
Andy, yes.
Who's very tough individual, was Andy. I think he was the main sparring guy for Chris Eubank
and Nigel. And Nigel. And he was my sparring partner as an amateur.
But it shows you that
he was a hell of a machine.
Andy was. And for you to beat Andy in the fashion you did, I think it was a round 7.
Round 7,
I think Jam sums it up here for me. A true British warrior. He should write a book about his career. I'd buy it for sure. There you go. You know where you're heading, Neville. He's already said it.
I get told this, but you know what? Do you know that I got asked if I'd do work for Sky, and I said, yeah. And Paul Dempsey said, "We like what you're doing. You talk really well." And I said, well, my way of talking, I like to be fair. So I'm not just going to blow the fighter up, because if he's not doing well and he's learned, it's a learning fight. He didn't shine so well today. The other guy, I would tell it how it was. They didn't want to hear that.
But you know what? I'll tell you now, that's what we want to hear. Because I know. You look at the pundits in other sports. I'll tell you, one for me on a personal level, being a gooner anyway, but like Ian Wright, when you see Ian Wright do punditry, he'll say it as it is. And that's what I love about Wright.
And you love it. You love it.
Yeah, because he's raw. He's real. He's honest. Yeah, you know,
I totally agree.
Yeah, we need more Neville Browns in this world. That's what we need.
Well, but they don't want it. They didn't want it. So I remember Steve Collins, because I think Steve is Irish accent. I says, "Steve, you talk good on fights." He goes, "Nev, they don't want it. They're ringing me and telling me I've got to blow this guy up and do this." And I go, "Yeah, but we can do it. You can do it. We can do it in intelligent ways. We're not saying we're going to dog them down. We're just saying it needs to step up." And they need to learn. Like you say, we're educating the people out there who probably don't know the boxing so well. Or we're not trying to pull the fighters down, but they'll think we're being, because you're a bit jealous of us. Yeah, we probably are. But the reality is, it's a circus out there today.
Yeah.
I mean,
and
you look at the YouTube.
There's too many arse kissers, Neville. There's too many people that are yes men, and we actually need people that are just being themselves. That's what it is, because we're in a generation now where people have to say yes, and they feel they've got to say yes. Where actually, we want people that just turn around and say, "Do you know what? Yeah, he won today, but if he wants to be the guy, he's got to do this."
Exactly. It's not
There's
the way
no harm in that.
anybody. We're not attacking nobody. We just see things. And I was jokingly saying I'm jealous. I am not jealous because I know how hard it is to get into that ring and that fight. So when I see anybody jump that rope and get in there, I go to myself, you know what? You've got to know what you're doing to get there. But it's nice to get that help.
Yeah.
And a lot of us didn't get it because, I mean, people say to me, well, how do you think about the YouTubers? I said, it's a clown's game. Because as much as I don't like it, if I got the phone call and said, do you fancy taking on such a YouTuber for 2.2 million? Yeah, where do I go? Where do I sign?
Yeah. I'm not that much of a mug.
You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, I can't blame any of them fighting for the money. I want to go to Saudi right now and fight.
Oh, mate. I spoke to an American prospect today at 7 p.m. like UK time. And he's 5-0, three knockouts. He's on the right. He's had, I think he did like 150 amateurs. He's fantastic pedigree.
Yes.
And you just think to yourself, I said, but if Saudi rang, he went, I'd be there at a shot, because that is where it's at. He's just,
I would have so much fun with that right now.
Yeah. And let's be honest, you are not the only guy. You would have your Nigel Benns. You feel
bad. You feel
they're all
bad.
there. But why not?
You're selling yourself. I always say I'll never sell myself.
But if His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh in Saudi Arabia turned around to you and said, I'm going to give you $2 million to fight this guy, you'd go, thank you very much. I'll pay for my plane ticket. It's fine.
Exactly. Exactly. So I don't blame that. And it's not good for boxing because we're not getting. I always say this to people: we're not seeing the best fighters, and that might upset some people. But I know there's some good top fighters out there, and they're not being seen.
Yeah.
They won't sign these contracts.
That have grafted
these contracts. You see.
Yeah.
Because when you sign a contract, when I signed a contract with Mickey Duff, I couldn't get out of it. And I couldn't get any fights, so they can just ice you out the game. And remember, a boxing career is a very short career.
Yeah,
at the top,
100%.
So, I'm glad I'm secure. I got my faculties and came out of it all right.
Well, that's it. While we're on the topic, just a quick one. What does Neville think of Mike Tyson fighting again at the age of 58? And would he consider a fight for the right amount of cash? I think you answered that briefly in what you just said.
Yeah. I'm still training now. I never retired. You know that.
Well, this is it. You just...
After my last fight, I just thought, I got called 4 days notice, telling me to fight. And I was like, I can't make the weight because I'm 12 stone 6. I can't get down to 11.6 in 4 days. It'd be a waste of time. If I got down, I'd just be a shout.
Yeah.
And it kept coming with better money and better money and better money. Not that it was good money like this. So I took it and went for it. And I thought, I've sold myself to the devil. I shouldn't have done this. And I walked away from the sport from there. But I never said I retired. The phone just stopped ringing. So the phone could still ring and like, okay, I'm back in the gym.
I only pick up the golden phone now, not just the standard. So what do you think of Mike, age 58? It's a dangerous one, isn't it? Whether you're fighting a YouTuber or whatever age person.
He's my age, right? And I am surprised that I'm moving so well today. I am really shocked because I believe the hype that when you get to 30, 40, you're finished. If you're looked after in this game and you haven't took punishment in the gym, that's where most of the punishment is, and the body's not totally damaged and ripped up, I move well today. That's why I'm saying to you jokingly, I'd be in that ring. I'd fight again. And I'm moving pretty sharp. People say to me, you look better now than when you did in the day. I go, yeah, because in the day, I was just training like a madman. I wasn't letting my body recover. Now, Mike, if I can move the way I'm moving, Mike, to me, with the right finances, the right massage, and the right training camps, and the right food, and the right nutrition, everything, in a 6 rounds. It's 6 rounds, is it? 8 rounds?
I think 6 or 8, isn't it? Yeah.
I don't know if it's 2s or 3s. To me,
it's 2 minutes. I think they're 2-minute rounds.
I expect Mike to do him in round 1. I really do. Round 1, I expect Mike with experience, get on that chest, and he's done. When you get a put, this guy's never been in a ring with a guy who can bang.
No.
Now,
and no one can roll. I
believe. Yeah. I believe if Tyson's really on this, I believe he will take him out in round 1 or 2. It'll be quite. But if it's part of the money scamp and he gets paid, it goes the distance, and I hope he hasn't. Has he bought the ticket?
I don't think Mike's got that. There'll be something in there that says I bring out the beast one more time. I don't think Mike's.
I'm hoping that. That's what I hope.
I do. And the good thing is I predicted the same thing as you. So if I predicted the same as Neville Brown, then I've got to be right.
We're on the same page. That's boxing. All the boxers have got the same mentality. We think the same. We don't want people to get hurt. We want the best man to win the fight. I'm not interested. I've always been that way. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm not bothered. If you win and you want the favorite, but you did the right work, you did the honesty, and you won that fight, that's your night.
Yeah. No,
it's like I don't understand the amateur boxing today. I never understand. Can you explain this to me? I get loads of amateurs. I've seen it. It's been done to me. Me and you box. You've won. I get the decision. How does that help anybody? You know you won. I know you won. My friends and people know I lost. I'll go look them in the face and say, yeah. It's like the guy who won the Korean fighter who beat Roy Jones. That destroyed his career. Then the Koreans giving him the decision over Roy Jones. He couldn't show his face anywhere. The whole world saw Roy Jones pepper him for 3 rounds and win outright.
Sadly, we see it too often now.
Why?
Some people look at what potentially is down the road for that fighter. Some people, not that they should, but it comes down to politics, and that's the sad reality.
You as a man or woman, really feel that you've won that title when they've scapegoated you to the top and avoided all the real challenges.
Well, yeah.
And when they get these belts, they haven't learned how to hold, how to smother, how to get the weight right. They haven't learned all these things that you've got to learn and box and stay in shape and win and look.
And then you're the target.
Then you become the target. And how do you handle that pressure?
Exactly. And then you find someone that has got that hunger that you've never really had because you've kind of been spoon-fed.
That to me is what's dangerous.
Yeah.
Because they get in the ring thinking they really are the champion and you think, yep. And we don't want that in the game, do we?
You were, not to put it on a downer, were beaten by Cardamone, if we're going to say it, in the EBU for the EBU European. But do you know what? You went on to win 9 of your last 15, and I say last because obviously the door is still open. Last 15 fights, including a cracking fight with Steve Collins. Now, I know you look at Steve as a quality fighter, and he was, wasn't he? And he
Awesome.
For me, he was one of my, and no offense to you, Neville, he was one of my dad's favourites. My dad loved how hard, and when you say hard man, Steve Collins was a hard man, wasn't he? And as you say, at that time, you had some of the best people in the world over here. You had some of the toughest individuals over here. So for you to go 11 rounds with Steve Collins.
Well, I always said this. I said, look,
incredible.
Just give me, because what was happening was I was being this, I mean, maybe I didn't realize at the time I was one of the first gatekeepers, but it wasn't really heard of. So I was getting fights, short notice against top guys. And I went to Brendan Ingalls to,
legend.
And I didn't get on with the training. Beautiful people, good fighters, but this body sparring, I didn't understand it. And as good as it is, and it protects fighters, I didn't get it. I get it now, but I didn't get it at the time because I was used to head sparring. But I was never an aggressive head sparrer. I learned that early on. If you sparred me, I'd take from it what I could, but it was an intelligent spar. The bags were my pounding machines, and the bags and the pads were my pounding machine. I very rarely struck opponents hard in the gym to hurt them. Once I knew what I was doing. When I was a youngster, I didn't understand. I let my hands go and I'd drop people in sparring as an amateur, even champions and stuff. But I didn't know. Once I knew, boxing was about control. It's not a fight. It sounds crazy, this is, right? But we use the word fight. But what does the word fight mean? It means out of control, fight or flight. But when I go into the ring, if my training's gone well and my weight's gone well and I've sparred, and I say that crazily, I never sparred for some of these big fights. How can you go in the ring with Cardimone and Collins and without actually doing open sparring?
Yeah.
That's crazy. And if the guys I did open spar with, they were youngsters because I couldn't get any sparring partners. It's crazy. So what more could have happened if I had that timing?
Yeah. No. As I say, you can look back, can't you, and say, as I say, that would have, should have, could have situation.
Yeah. We all have those stories, yes.
But and every boxer I've spoken to has those where they think, oh well, if I'd have done this. But from a fan's point of view, I look back at your career and I just think, wow, Neville Brown paved the way for another generation. Who,
you know what? I did love it. I did love it.
Do you know what? And that's what makes it even more beautiful, Neville.
I did love it. I couldn't, like I said, people said to me, I get loads of people stopping me and saying, Neville Brown, is it? Oh my God. He goes, you had the right mentality. Win or lose, you entertained. And I goes, well, I didn't know any other way. I knew I was in the ring. I was having this. When I boxed Steve Collins, I got the phone call. I just moved into the house I'm with now. And I got a phone call on New Year's saying, one of Warren's runaway boys said, Steve Collins, you want him? And I went, what? Steve Collins for the world title? Yeah. And I was like, hell yeah. And in my head at that moment, I thought, I made it. Yeah. In my head, I was thinking, I got 3 months training. I know I'm going to get paid something decent now. I'm going to be able to get a pay for sparring. I'm going to be able to get the pad work. I can now train for the fight. I've got Frank Grant was a guy who gave me 3 good months to perform when I boxed him. I thought, I'll have it again, but this time I get proper sparring. And I thought, yeah. And he goes, when's the fight? He went, 4 weeks time. I went,
hang on a minute.
Whoa. That's not... I said 4 weeks. And I said, for Steve Collins at 12 stone, I go, you do know I'm a light middleweight, blown up to box at middle, and now you're making me jump to super middle. And in 4 weeks, so I said, no. My common sense tells me no. And he went to me, if you don't take it, we won't come back to you again. We'll offer it to the French champion. Yeah, I'll offer the French champion then, because remember, we won't come back to you. And then you're like this. Okay, I'll take it. Oh, hang on, how much am I getting paid? 40 grand. I go, you're taking the piss, aren't you? And I kept thinking, if I can shine in this fight, I'll take it. They offered me 45.
Yeah.
And when the biggest fight I really had was with my dad. My dad was angry. He goes, "What are you doing? Steve Collins wanted to just beat Eubanks twice." I goes, "Yeah." And he gives a 4 weeks notice. I was like, "Dad, sometimes you just got to fight." Nah, man. This is ridiculous. And I had that going into the fight. No sparring. Had to go back to. I left Brendan's to train back at the amateur gym I was training at. So I was in the amateur gym on my Todd. On a bag, no pads, no nothing. And this is crazy. And I'm thinking, I'm going in with Steve Collins, 4 weeks notice, no proper sparring. I had body sparring with Johnny Nelson, all the boys, Ryan Rose, all that. But body sparring wasn't good for me.
Yeah.
I wanted some realism, not wars, but I wanted some throwing shots in my head. So anyway, I gets in there with Steve, and the idea was to box and keep out of trouble. But it's so heavy. When I weighed in at 12 stone 2, that's after 2 big breakfasts. I had no weight problem whatsoever. I was nowhere a 12 stoner. And when I weighed in and he weighed in, he was dead at the weight. I could see. I thought, I got you. And I remember him shaking my hand and going, squeezing my hand and going, "I'm gonna knock you out, Brad. I'm gonna knock you out." And I went, "Yeah," but I remember saying to him, "Yeah, but I got nothing to worry about. You got everything to lose." And because I did judo, I can turn people's strength on them. So I got his hand and I locked it and I twisted his hand. I goes, "I ain't got nothing to worry about. You're the one who's got to worry. I got nothing to lose." And his face went white. And he told me afterwards, he goes, "I've never been so fucking scared in all my days. You turned the psychology on me because he's right. You bent up my arm the way you did. And you showed me you were strong. And I thought, and you look drained." I remember saying to him, "And you look drained." And he knew, I know I was playing on his psyche. And I walked out the room real cool. And I was shaking like this. What the fuck have I just said to Steve Collins?
Of all people.
Of all people. And then 24 hours later, the fight's on. And I can't believe how relaxed I am. And one of the boys said, one of the promoters said, "You know you're boxing Steve Collins, don't you?" I goes, "Yep." And I was like, "This." He goes, "Aren't you nervous?" I goes, "Do you know, I'm not actually. I'm ready for this. As long as I could put a good." I know I didn't have 12 rounds in me. That was the thing that annoyed me. I didn't have 12 rounds in me, but I had good 6 rounds in me. I knew I could box at this level from my amateur background and everything. I boxed the world, the best. But this weight advantage. When I got into the ring and I saw the size of him, I thought, yeah, he's filled up. Forget 24 hours. 36 hours later, he's gone. And he just dwarfs me in the ring. And in the first round, if you watch the fight, I'm trying to do the right thing because he's got slow feet. So I'm running around the ring trying to stick and move. And I'm winning it comfortably. And I thought, oh, God, he's too slow. I can read him. But he lands a shot on the top of my head here. And I go over. I'm not hurt by it, but I go down, I cover up, and I gets up and I winks at him and goes, "Good shot." I thought, how heavy is this dude?
Yeah.
He's got these big, strong, clumsy arms. Well, what I noticed, if I stayed inside, he's got his big swinging arms. He couldn't do nothing with me. And that was a tactic. I watched Chris Eubanks try and dance and step out of the way. But Chris didn't have the speed of feet and he wasn't quite getting out of the way. And this style of boxing that Steve Collins had now started to do, because he's a great boxer, you know. If you watch his early career, he's a good boxer, but he becomes this brawler to intimidate people.
Bullies, didn't he? Bullies.
Bullied them. So he bullied and pushed him. He's pushing and talking, and Eubanks couldn't handle it. But I was able to stay inside. I was actually protected. I went into the fire, and he couldn't hit me with nothing clean. But he was leaning on me, and it was the wrong tactics. But I had no choice because I had to stay close inside. But I kept the fight close, and I thought it was really close. And then I think it was the third round, I thought, do you know what? I can get this guy. And I went after him, and I just started walking him down. But again, like I said, I didn't have the conditioning, and he just overwhelmed me with his experience. He's hard to hit clean. He's moving his head like this. He's very hard to hit clean. And it was, you know what, it was a brilliant experience I had. I wasn't hurt. And I always say this to people after the fight. In the 11th round, he saw me go down. And I'm going down, and I'm exhausted, but I'm not hurt. And I'm dehydrated. And I didn't know how badly dehydrated I was. And I got up in the 11th round again, and I wanted to carry on because I was saving myself what little bit I had left for a strong finish in the 12th round. I thought I'm going to go toe-to-toe. I knew he was fucked as well.
Yeah.
I thought, I got him. I'm going to go for it. And he broke his hand, he said, after the fight, because he broke his hand in one of the middle rounds. So it was a good chance for me. But so I was trying to pace it. Anyway, got me in the 11th round. And I kept thinking, I was going down. If you look at the video, I'm going down and I'm rubbing my nose going, what's going on? I went over. I got up. I thought, I'm all right, but I'm weary. No doubt about it, I'm weary. And I'm getting, and the commentary was shocking. The commentary was.
Hasn't changed.
It was shocking. Anyway, I get up, and he does his attack on me, and I seize a shot, and I'm rubbing, and he glances a shot across my head, and the referee walks in and goes, and I go, no. And Steve goes, yeah. I thought, fuck it. Well, I had a good go. I had a good crack. And then Steve were laughing and chatting, and I wasn't hurt. It was good. After I got drug tested before the fight. So, okay. But then I got drug tested after the fight. I've never heard that before in my life. So I had to sit there and I couldn't piss because I was so dehydrated. So about an hour after the weigh-in, I finally did a little bit of piddle in this glass, and the doctor goes, I'll let you go. That's cool. That's enough to do the test.
Yeah.
I went back to the hotel. I weighed, the scales next to my bedroom. What do you think I weighed?
I wouldn't have a clue. It must have been horrendous.
12 stone 1 on the day. 12 stone the night before, 24 hours or 36 hours later. And I weighed myself before I went to the fight, and I was 12-1. And then after the fight, I was 10 stone 7. And I'd been drinking water for that hour, trying to get work, and I was still 10 stone 7 on these scales.
That's yeah.
One, it tells you I'm a natural light middleweight.
Yeah, yeah.
And 2, that's why I got pushed around so easily with the last couple of shots. Because I kept thinking, it was like, I don't know if you've ever been scrapping with your older brother or your dad, and they got weight on you, and they can just fling you aside. That's what Steve did. He just went and threw me, and I just went catapult into the ropes and catapulting in. He just got me in these headlocks, and I couldn't move out of them because I was a little guy, little weight. I didn't know I was 11 stone. You know what I mean? At that time.
I'll tell you though, the stories and the career though, Neville, just unbelievable. I speak for everyone. You genuinely were a warrior, and you still are. You know, your mentality that your parents installed in you, and that your teacher, Miss Tyson, big shout out to her, installed in you.
I can't find her. I need to find her, man.
Honestly, we'll start the search, mate. We'll see what we can do. But honestly, you're an absolute star, Neville. Honestly, and it's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you and learning your stories. And please stay in touch. Definitely. It'd be great to have a catch up again and get your insight on other matters in boxing as well.
What, the rematch and going to Saudi? You're going to come to Saudi with us?
Mate, if we get it paid, I'll come with you. But bleeding it, I don't know if I can afford it. But honestly,
I'll pay for it. If I'm boxing, I'll pay for it.
Yeah. But honestly, Neville, it's been a pleasure, mate. Honestly has. And thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
It's good talking.
And we'll have a catch up soon. You take care, Neville. And as I say, I'll see you in Saudi.
Yes.
Take care, mate. God bless.
Take care, bros.